Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, what again? A great show for you today. E2247 is in the house, and he says, hello to everybody. In other words, he said, Bridge, Michael, hello. And you too, Egberto. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. Lee Grant, welcome aboard. AVQ, a.k.a. Michael Rudnan, welcome aboard. How are my peeps doing? Let's see if I got anybody else. Folks, if you're here, I see you are here. So go ahead and throw your name in there so I can salute you. You know I like to give shout outs to everybody. Eric Hayes is in the house as well. Come on, folks, line up. I want to call you out. All right, let's get busy. Bruce Pollard said, BP is standing by. Hey, I like the pun, Bruce Pollard, it's BP. Blood pressure, yeah, hey. BP is standing by, and my BP is standing by. I love you, bro. All right, let's get busy, guys. Indeed 100. Trump supporters now have a salute, and it's drawing Nazi comparison footage from the Mr. Trump's latest Save America rally, which took place in Ohio Saturday, shows those in the crowd raising their arms. They were doing this, numero uno. That's their kind of a Nazi salute. So, yep. That was all over TV. I'm going to let that one slide. Egberto, mind putting this on the screen? Well, you know, Rudnan, usually I put your stuff on the screen as long as it... Yep, I need to show our peeps. All right, Rudnan got a screenshot of the picture for us, and here it is, my peeps. That is the Nazi, the Trump Nazi salute that you're looking at. Let's see if I can bring it up a little bit bigger. There you go. That's the Nazi salute for Donald J. Trump. All right, let me put it back so I don't screw something else up. All right, what else we got here? NBC, federal prosecutors announced charges Tuesday against 47 people accused of carrying out the biggest COVID fraud scheme to date, a theft of $250 million, though what officials described as a brazen and staggering plot that exploited a federal program designed to feed needy children in Minnesota. Prosecutors say a web of charities, restaurants, and individuals pulled off the fraud by claiming they were providing meals for tens of thousands of underserved children, when in fact the money was going to commercial real estate, luxury cars, fancy homes, and even coastal property in Kenya. Authorities say the defendants took advantage of loosened eligibility rules and a lack of oversight due to the pandemic. Stories like this piss me off to no end as grifters bilk the government out of money that's meant to feed the impoverished. I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree. All right, continuing. New York Times correspondent Kim Severson. Kim Severson is at Kim Severson. The Minnesota operation, prosecutors said, was especially bold. One accused conspirator told the government he had fed 5,000 children a day in a second-story apartment. Ha! Bunch of thugs. Michael Rundin says, Minnesota Representative Betty McCollum tweeted that it's difficult to overstate the depravity of stealing millions of taxpayer dollars, funds intended to feed the hungry children during the COVID crisis. The 47 people indicted must be held accountable for their crimes. They sure should. I mean, the pilfer. But you know what? This one is brazen and you can see it, right? But you know which pilfer I want taken care of? Yes, those 47 people that I didn't, by the way, for some reason I didn't see this story. But those 47 people that pilfer $250 million, that pales in comparison to what corporate America, the oil companies, did to little mom and pop stores, women going to work, men going to work, children going to school, by raising gasoline prices that were unwarranted, claiming speculation or whatever. That theft was a lot more egregious than what you just saw there. Those thieves that took away that $250 million from the child care scheme, just as bad as Brett Favre, $5 million. I mean, we have so many thugs out there these days. And you know who generally are the thuggish ones? The people with means, the people that have been to college, the people that have these higher educations, the ones that are always looking down at the other. They're the ones that come up with these crooked deals to take your money from us, the taxpayers. Again, let's look at the major thieves. I bet if you take a look at that group of 47, you have lawyers and business owners and real estate, all very high-end educated folks that probably generated that ripoff. Same that occurs in corporate America. The ripoff that occurs in corporate America are these guys sitting down in these elitist offices saying things like, how can we extract more money from the economy? Meaning the economy, meaning the average middle class person or poor person. How can we get that money? Don't take your eyes off of the ball. These are great, these are sensational stories. 47 people in a ring that robbed $250 million. What that turns out to be about $5 million per person. And then when we take a look at it, what did Brett Favre steal again? $6 million. $5 million for the gym and $1 million for speeches he never took or he never gave. Let's look at proportionality now. $6 million for Brett Favre. These guys, what is 250 divided into 47 people? That's what that fraud was on a per person, per capita basis. The fraud by these people is pathetic. But let's put it into perspective with the corporate fraud that occurs in this country on a daily basis. CNN, Hurricane Fiona, much of Puerto Rico without power and more than 1 million without running water in Dominican Republic. Now it's slamming into Turks and Caicos. Hurricane Fiona is threatening more deadly flooding as it slams into Turks and Caicos Island Tuesday, having already cut power and water for most of Puerto Rico's 3.1 million residents and left more than 1 million without running water in the Dominican Republic. From Fiona, a Category 3 storm will sustain winds of 115 miles per hour, batter the Turks and Caicos, while centered about 40 miles from that island. Its heavy rains could deliver life-threatening flooding through the afternoon. And you know who is in trouble right now? Because it may be heading that side, the northeast Canada. They may get a wallop they haven't seen in decades. And that's going to be hard on them as well. But I want to say something about Puerto Rico and their electrical grid run by the private sector. After we had a hurricane 5 years ago, did the public sector react to ensure that we had a stable system? I saw a lot of broken poles. That should, given that you're in a hurricane-prone zone and it happened before, and we know that we're going to be getting more Hurricane 5, Category 5, Category 4 storms coming into Puerto Rico, one of the things that you think you would have done is started creating those particular, if you're going to put power lines on poles, you may go ahead and make those poles the steel poles that don't crack and bend like wood would when you have those high winds and the windage from the lines and everything else, right? But it's a private sector. That extra 30% must be profit. Otherwise, they could invest it in using better poles, right? But it's the private sector. Remember what I said. The private sector does not belong in healthcare. The private sector does not belong in energy. The private sector does not belong in hospitalization. The private sector does not belong in any of these places where life is critical. Because they don't give a damn about life. I'm talking about the corporate sector, of course. All right. The Fox News host wanted to give the impression that the long list was proof of harassment. Viewers were supposed to see it and think, whoa, those damn investigators sure have bothered Trump a whole lot. But the closer one looked at the list, the more Hannity's segment backfired. Viewers were actually reminded of all the completely legitimate scrutiny what was supposed to present Trump as victim instead made him look like a scandalous and prolific lawbreaker. The list concluded investigations into Trump's Russia scandal, Russian interference in U.S. elections to assist Trump. The controversy surrounded the Trump inaugural fund, alleged emoluments clause violations, Trump hidden tax returns, improper gifts, Trump alleged receiving post-defeat election interference, Trump bringing classified material to Mar-a-Lago, the January 6th attack and efforts to overturn the 2020 election, Trump using military aid to extort Ukraine, Trump's hush money, controversies, Trump dubious pardons, Trump's dubious fundraising operations, Trump alleged real estate fraud. Wow. Bridge, you hit the nail on the head. Okay, one more from Rodney The Hill. Biden issues emergency declaration as Hurricane Fiona barrels to Puerto Rico. This is leadership when you know there's going to be a problem and you plan for the outcome. Exactly. Last one from Rodney. Keith Turk, Assistant Administration to the Field Leadership of FEMA, says flooding and mudslides remain a major concern on the island of Puerto Rico after Hurricane Fiona dumped more than 2 feet of rain. More than 1.3 million people are without power, and the remaining residents are relying on already fragile infrastructure. That's what the private sector does for you, right? Come on, folks. Let's get real. Now, when I say private sector, you guys know I mean the corporate structure. All right, let's see. Para ver. Eric Hayes is in the house. He says, if you can't do a deal from north, we'll go south. TC Energy, while finding roadblocks at every turn of pipeline construction in Canada, is finding a welcome partner in Mexico. TC and Mexico's utility recently announced a partnership for $4.5 billion. Sure, I don't mind. Go spend the money on on infrastructure that's going to be obsolete faster than it can be depreciated, because that's not where we're at. Great. Bruce, welcome aboard. Sister Jen. Sister Jen is in the house. I think Bruce Pollard is standing by to help you. Bruce is always there to help Brother Willie's here. I love Bruce. Bruce is my neighbor. Our kids grew up together. They went to school together. They walked to school every morning for the longest time. Meredita would come over here, have some breakfast, and then they'll all walk, or I should say maybe run to school when they're late. AC Rodriguez is in the house. Thinly veiled fascism is still fascism. Agreed. Bruce Pollard said, if drugs are coming in across the southern border, how can we stop it? I don't think migrants can carry in as a rule. Look, I don't stopping the drugs. You can't stop the drugs. Every container, every orifice is a potential place to carry drugs. If you want to solve the drug problem, solve it at its source. Stop Americans' appetite for drugs. Give them a life worth living. Then they wouldn't be looking for drugs to tame their hurt, to stop their pain. You think people just take drugs because by the way, let me just tell you, I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I may have a beer every now and then, but I don't drink hard liquor or anything like that. I don't smoke. I'm only telling you this because I don't want people to think that I defend those who do drugs because I'm some sort of an apologist for myself. I am not. But I think everybody have a right to do whatever drug they want to do as long as they don't infringe on somebody else's right and as long as they don't carry up your insurance rate by constantly going to the emergency room. Okay? That's simple. Or if they pay a premium if they overuse the emergency room because of drug use. Some kind of a compromise. But a sort of criminalizing drugs, I think, is evil. Because alcohol is a drug and we don't criminalize alcohol. Alcohol is worse than marijuana and we don't criminalize it. So I'm for full context. Let the drugs out. Then you won't have to have all these mules on the border trying to get drugs in. We won't have that problem. Lee Grant says, how is that a Nazi salute? It is not a Nazi salute at all, Lee Grant. I'm saying it is their version of what a Nazi salute stands for. If I came across otherwise, my great dear apologies. That's not what I meant to say, and that's not what I should say. Let's see what else we got here. Coming down. Brandon Butler. Let's see. Eric Berto. Mom and pop stores were destroyed in 2022. Of course they were. I don't disagree with you. Daniel Ledo says, if Egberto doesn't like you, you're guilty. If you share his politics, we need to give the benefit of the doubt. Oh, Daniel, that's not true and you know it. How many times have I given you the benefit of the doubt? Quite often. AC Rodriguez says, Brett Favre, is that you? Bridge MCP says, it's not a Nazi salute. It has to do with the Proud Boys slogan. I know, Bridge, but what we're saying is it is equivalent to what the Nazi salute would be. You know, some kind of a thing that brings us together. That togetherness, hype, you know, that sort of a thing. Okay. All right, what else we got here? Daniel Ledo is talking to somebody else. Let's see. The private sector rebuilt it and maybe limit due to funds. Wait a minute. Limit due to funds? It's a private sector. They don't have a limit due to funds. They can build whatever they have and then charge people to pay their light bills. And if they don't have a business model that works, then they don't have a business. But we shouldn't be coddling them. Bruce Pollard said the polls are a supply chain issue. Probably. I don't doubt that. But again, the hurricane occurred 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Before the pandemic. But the private sector again failed as usual because they need to make a profit. What can I say? Okay, Bark Eater says greetings. Well, greetings, Bark Eater. Eric Hayes says focus on midterms or bad orange man. Oh, we're going to be doing a lot of that. Don't worry, we're getting there. But you know what? You guys come first. My audience comes first. Primero. You know, there was this guy in Patagonia. His name was Patagonio Tucumán from, I think it was Argentina. He said, a la voz de ahora, primera. And I don't remember the rest. But it used to be funny. It was a skit called Tres Patines. I think it was an Argentinian skit. Argentinian sitcom or comedy. We used to watch that every weekend. I think it was every weekend. A la voz de ahora, primera. Anyway. Coming on, continuing with our show. Let's see what we got here. Eric Hayes says, yes, people take drugs, Egberto, but stopping or slowing supply with hard busting was being done, but the last 20 months record levels since. Again, hard busting of drugs doesn't work. Put it this way. You want to stop, if you want to stop drugs on the supply side, get to hell the factories that create the raw materials. Again, people that you see selling the drugs, those peons on the street, the ones that go to jail, they have nothing to do with drug manufacturing. It's easy to find the drug manufacturer if you wanted to. If you wanted to find the supplier, you could. We have no interest in that. We like the cat and game ride, right? We love it. The cat and mouse game. We love it. So what my thing is, have sympathy. Have empathy for all drug users. Give them the help that they need. Understand that many drug users are using drugs to hold back some sort of pain, to feel good. Right? Just like the alcoholic is trying to cover that need. We give the alcoholic better treatment than the druggie, even though the alcoholic's liver is going to be going to hell. While the marijuana smoker's liver will be just fine, right? Maybe his lung will be a little bit messed up. All right, Bros Pollard said, too many people die without having the chance to be helped. Those painkillers are not good. They come from who knows where. It's terrible. It's terrible. But again, Bruce, the people that are pushing these drugs, the doctors that are pushing these drugs, and guess what? There are a lot of doctors right here in yours truly, Brother Bruce. We have a lot of high-end drug users right in our community, Brother Bruce. My wife could probably tell you quite about a few of them, that as they're driving down Kingwood Drive or Lake Houston Boulevard, they're popping those pills because it makes them feel good with some whiskey on the side. And nobody would ever try to lock these folks up because they get it the right way. It's prescribed. Those don't have those privileges. They go ahead on the streets and get it the best they can, and sometimes they get it laced. And then those are the ones that pay the heavy penalty. Oh, so they get hit twice, right? They get knocked out because they're doing drugs, and then they get knocked out by the person who sold them the drugs, which sold them crap for the drugs. And then they get knocked out again because they got to go to the emergency room and they can't afford it, and they try to dump them out as soon as possible. It's hell to be poor, as Marvin Zindler used to say. It's hell to be poor. It's hell not to have. You know, I used to be one of those that just thought people who took drugs were irresponsible. People who took drugs were beneath me. People who took drugs were all those bad things. That's how Egberto felt about people who took drugs. Until I was schooled and had to change my complete opinion and ask the question, wait a minute, those people who medicate themselves with alcohol, how comes you don't feel that way about them? Those people who medicate themselves under the auspices of a doctor, how comes you don't feel like that about them? How comes you don't think they're weak? How comes you don't think they are needy? But you have that poor person whose only recourse is to go on the streets and buy some drugs and sometimes get hurt in doing so, and we just hammer them down. It's neither empathetic or the right thing to do. As I said, I was fooled. I had to change my opinion. I had to learn to be more empathetic to all drug users. Whether it is a drug of alcohol, the drug of nicotine, or the other drugs, whether they be cocaine or crack or whatever they may be. I learned to be empathetic, and since then I think I've learned also to atone. All right, let's see what else we got here. Hail! Para ver. Norman Reynolds says, Trump has been a criminal that keeps on committing crimes. Let's start with him paying hush money to a sex worker for his silence. How can apologists protect him? And you know what is so funny, Brother Norman, and welcome, Brother Norman Reynolds. You know what is so funny? It is so funny because he was committing all these crimes before he even got into the presidency. That is the heights of privilege. Because of who he was. Not only that he was a white guy, but also that he was a man. And also that he came from wealth, however dubious. That is America. And that is what we together here must solve. Because if Obama had several baby mamas, if Obama ripped off people, if Obama created false university, if Obama did 1% of what Donald Trump did, Obama, first of all, would never have been president, and the media would have torn into him and never taken him seriously. Yet even today, the media treats Donald Trump as if he's some sort of a human being of consequence. They are the ones who make him consequential. Bruce Fowler said, doctors subscribe and don't prevent addiction. I agree. Marijuana from Rudden, marijuana may once or twice a year for marijuana maybe once or twice a year for recreation. I have no issue with others who use drugs recreational, whether alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, mushrooms, or otherwise. So long as you're not posing a danger to others, DUI is still a crime. I also want to treat addiction solely as a medical issue. I agree with you 100%. This can be done by legalization. Yes, and then DUI should remain. If you are operating a vehicle under the influence, that vehicle for you is a weapon. Breach says, Egberto Willis, PS, Restream bot not working on YouTube from FB and Twitch. Dang it. I can't do anything about that. Breach, I just ask you when there's anything consequential to manually move, if you can, if you have the wherewithal to do so. Thank you so kindly for doing that for us, Breach. If you can. I don't want to overburden anybody. All right, let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Bark Eater, Waves, YouTube from Twitch. What else we got? Eric Hayes says, empathy, you are supporting the cartels by no law enforcement and people die. That is not empathetic. No, it's not the car. You see, again, Eric, you are looking at the wrong, again, you know what we learned, you know what I love about engineering? I said, as an engineer, I didn't use any of my graphical skills in engineering to draw things and create motor parts or anything like that as a mechanical engineer. That's not what I did. But what engineering taught you as you learn kinematics and dynamics and statics and dynamics and flow control and heat transfer, what you learned is logical thinking and also the genesis of everything. You learned about dependent and independent variables, right? You look at independent variables and dependent variables wrongly, Mr. Hayes, right? We have people who are looking for drugs, all right? Trying to make believe that stopping the cartel from doing their work is going to somehow help that drug person. You know what? You know why a lot of drug company executives recently got convicted? Because we finally realized that the biggest pushers were not the cartels, but the drug manufacturers themselves, wanting to put out as many drugs as possible. You're blaming the cartel. The cartel is a dependent variable. The independent variable is the drug companies. You killed the independent variable, there's nothing for the dependent variable to get stuff from. It changes. Come on. Madre mía, corazón, la gente. Again, when you look, what is the word? If all you have is a nail, the solution always look like a hammer or something like that. AC Rodriguez says everyone self-medicates in different ways. Some use food, some use drugs, some use illegal ones. AC Rodriguez, you hit that on the money. Work is my cancer, you know? Bree says, I have oxytocin for 2 years, forced the doc to give it to me because it's a reaction to others, but still have them. There you go, girl. You haven't allowed the doctor to turn you into a thug. I'm sorry, hear me, thug. The thug word is on my mind for the drug companies, and now I'm calling the drug users somehow. No, turn you into an addict is what I wanted to say. Danielle said, really? Their only recourse is to do drug? Are you serious? Oh, God. All right, Eric A says, why won't Hunter... I'm not going there. Bridge MCP says, okay, so my mistake. Egberto Willie's stream bot is not working for YouTube and Twitch. All right, what else I got here? Bear with me, guys. I'm going to the videos in a minute. Egberto, do drug cartels get most of their drugs from American pharmaceutical corporations? Maybe I'm not seeing that point. No, what I'm trying to say is this. The drug thing is bigger than just the cartel. The cartels do different things. They get drugs from all over. In fact, they actually grow the coca leaves in all over the world, including some places you won't believe. And then they have places where they cook the coca leaves for that type of drugs. But there are many other kind of drugs where they get the raw ingredients to make them, some pills, from American corporations. Yes. That's just how it is. We are the biggest chemical maker on the planet. All right. Norman Reynolds says the current GOP want to apologize for Trump because they want to distract us. The fact is, though the Trump is the Kronos equivalent in the GOP, all the children, lapdogs, brings him as a GOP, and he colors them with... I agree, brother. I can't help but agree. Okay. First story, let's go ahead and get busy.
I'm going to take this point of privilege and talk to you about one issue that nobody's talking about, abortion. And so let me give you the quick talking points so that you will really understand this issue backwards and forwards, because I know that the talking points say that this is a women's issue. And I have to take umbrage with that. This is not just a women's issue. The abortion debate on its face is about a woman's right to choose, and all of us support her having that right to choose, period. Okay, start there. But this is more than that. With the Constitution, when it was written in 1790, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution were ratified, and that's called the Bill of Rights. And we all hear the Second Amendment from the other side, but they don't talk about the other amendments. And I bet a lot of you may not know all the amendments, but I'm going to tell you why they're important. There was a guy named William Brandeis who was a Supreme Court justice in 1890, so 100 years later, skip 100 years ahead. And he looked at these 10 amendments and saw something that no one else had really seen before. And that is that because these amendments are there, they informed us how we could deal with future problems, things that were more modern. So for example, George Washington didn't deal with cell phones in the Constitution, right? But somehow our judicial system deals with cell phones. And we do that because of what I'm about to tell you. In the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, do we all know it?
Press.
The freedom of what?
Press.
The press, and what else?
Speech.
Speech, and what else? Religion, and what else? One more. The right to assemble. Good. Okay. So we have that one, and everybody's got that one down pat. And the Second Amendment, the right to unlimited guns no matter what, apparently.
Oh, no.
Okay, we understand that one. The Third Amendment, anybody?
No.
Okay, I'll go through them quickly so we can get to the candidates. The Third Amendment, the quartering amendment. So back then, it was the norm that when militaries would come in, they would house themselves in anybody's local house. So when this country was founded, they decided that that would be against the law. We will never have military housed in your own personal homes. And that is a privacy issue. You have your home, the government can't come and live in it. Okay, the Fourth Amendment is something very similar. When they come to your home, they can't enter without a warrant. Search and seizure, that's the Fourth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment, you've probably all heard of, right? I plead the Fifth. That's the right to not incriminate yourself. So you have private information about yourself. No one is making you give that private information up, okay? Now, I can go through the other amendments, but these three are very important because they insinuate an interesting thing. They insinuate a right to privacy. You have the quartering amendment, government can't come here. That's a privacy issue. They can't come in without a warrant. That's a privacy issue. You don't have to incriminate yourself. That's a privacy issue, right? Because of those amendments, William Brandeis, 100 years later, said, we have something called penumbra rights. Penumbra rights. The penumbra is that shadow that's cast when the moon has a what do you call it? An eclipse of the moon. The shadow that comes on the Earth planet, that's the penumbra. So this insinuation of the moon. So this insinuation of rights because of these three rights specifically. Now, because of that, we now in a modern day get to say, well, you can have interracial marriage because it is your right as a private citizen to do that. We say you have the right to gay marriage. You have the right to not incriminating yourself by giving your password on your cell phone, unless you have FaceTime and then you're stuck. Right? If you have a password, no one can tell you to give it up. There's a lot of privacy that comes because of the insinuation there. Now, the conservative movement has always said that they are what it's called originalists, which means that only if the words themselves appear in the Constitution can we deal with that. So literally, there is no word cell phone in the Constitution, so there is no law that prevents the government from taking our cell phone and using it against us, and that digitally without us even knowing it. Right? They would suggest to you that there is no law preventing that. And there is no law that says that you have the right to marry whom you would like to marry. There is no law that says you have this thing called privacy. So when a woman goes to her doctor and has a private conversation, they would suggest that because in the Constitution it doesn't explicitly say you have that right, then it goes back to the states. If you know your Constitution, anything that wasn't explicitly written goes to the states. And every state, therefore, has the right to decide what they want. Now, here's the interesting part about that. Right now, a lot of the states' legislatures